personal honor to present you with the 2017 McKinney-Vento Award.
You don't know what it means to me to have this award presented by someone as extraordinary as the wife of McKinney-Vento, because I learned when my father died, who's such a big symbol in my life, that death can end life, but it can't end the love. And the work goes on. The light continues. So I just want to thank you for the incredible, generous words you've said about me. But more importantly, I want to thank you for the life you're living and the spirit you're continuing of your family. It will touch generations that are born, and I'm just in awe. So thank you very much. I wanted to say that to the Law Center, I just want you to know that, and to your great director, and all those people who make this work, please know, for my life, it's lawyers and it's legal activists that the reason why I'm standing here. Even my family, just to get to move into the home that I grew up in, we had to get activists involved. We had to get to the Fair Housing Council, who, with lawyers, set up a sting operation after my parents were told homes were sold. The white couple would come and find out it was still for sale. It ended up becoming a big legal row that included a fist fight where my father's lawyer was punched by the real estate agent when the sting operation was revealed. I hope none of you have to take punches in your faces. But my father would never let me forget all of the activism, the engagement, and frankly, the crusading lawyers that had to be involved for my family to move in one generation from poverty in Jim Crow South to living in the middle class. And in many ways, I've tried to live my life in accordance to those blessings. I began my career as a lawyer representing tenants who were facing awful slum wars, working in clinics. I just went back from my law school reunion to go and visit the clinics where I was doing landlord-tenant law and saw the difference. You know, most Americans think that you have the right to an attorney. Well, that's in criminal cases, but we all know that the reality is you don't get them in so-called civil cases. But the jeopardy of losing housing is really a loss that goes deep into the lives of individuals, because it could be homelessness, it could be destitution, it could be being victimized, and more. And so this has been a part of my life, but what gives me hope right now is organizations like this who are continuing the fighting in the trenches. In my community of New Jersey, the same group that was there that helped my family move in, the Fair Housing Council, is still there. The head of it is still there from the 1960s. She's 91 years old, and she's still fighting the good fight. I'm the only senator in America that lives in an inner city community that's low income. I live in the central ward of Newark. I think our census tract is about $14,000 as a median income for a family in my district. And I see that our inability as a country to have housing policies that offer security to families, that we don't see fundamentally in this nation, that you cannot have access to all the things we believe is what it means to be an American. You cannot have access to them unless you have a secure and stable home. So many families who are working full-time jobs, so many families who are struggling and doing all the things we do, playing by the rules, are still at risk of homelessness and falling into homelessness all over our country. And too many people think that somehow being poor in America is not a fiscal problem, but it's a moral problem. And that is a disgusting attitude to me, especially if you live in communities like mine and you see the dignity and the worth and the value that this nation is wasting, that this nation is squandering because we're not investing in stability and security and housing. And so I want you to know that I am so inspired by this group that has the audacity to stand like great leaders have stood before, whether it was Martin Luther King right here in Washington, D.C., talking about a bold dream for our country that was achievable. Whether it's leaders from looking at the moon and saying that we are going to go there, or even leaders in difficult times like the Depression saying we have nothing to fear but fear itself. We will pull out of this as a country, believe in ourselves. This is the time in America where we need to believe in our ability to do big things again. Big things in this country can't be about how many billionaires we produce or how tall the buildings we can build. Ultimately, a nation that understands that this country has always been built on humble hopes and dreams of dignity. We've got to get back to understanding that the most important, boldest dream we can have in America is that every American should have economic security, should have access to health care, and should have a stable, safe, decent home. Fundamentals. And so I want to end by giving you just the words of a great person, because a lot of people are despairing right now. And a lot of people, and I'm literally going back, rushing back to my office now to get ready to vote on the most noxious CRA, devastating people's ability to hold corporations accountable for their ill deeds. But I want you to know that I am still hopeful. And even on days that I feel broken, and I will end with this, I still turn back to my experiences of living in some high-rise projects for about 8 years in New York. And I still live in that neighborhood now. But on the worst day, one of the worst days of my life, when I was walking in my neighborhood, 2004, it was April, my dad was with me visiting for my birthday, and a shooting happened, and I ended up being there as a child, literally bled to death. And I was so angry after this experience. I still remember the ambulance came up, pushed me out of the way, loaded me into the ambulance, and I knew that that kid had passed. And I still remember my dad's looking at me and seeing his son with the blood of another child on him. And I'll never forget just breaking that night. When I got home, it was one of those nights where you just try to wash your hands and your hands start shaking and you just start crying in a mixture of sadness and rage at this country. Angry in America that we could allow this kind of death and destruction to go on every single day. And I remember some of you might know what I'm talking about. I just stepped into the shower, turned on the water as hot as I possibly could stand it, hoping that the pain on the outside might get rid of the pain on the inside. And that night, I slept a fitful night, got up early, went down to the lobby of my building, and went to go out. Now, I got my BA from Stanford, but I'm telling you right now, I got my PhD unofficially on the streets of the city of New York. Because some of the greatest, noblest people I've ever met, the wisest souls, happen to be low-income folk who are in the front lines of this country, fighting for the American dream.
Industry relations at Freddie Mac, as well as the senior policy